And if you could state your name, sir, and the spelling of it, please.
Owen Schroyer, OwenShroyer.
Okay. And what organization do you represent here today?
InfoWars.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about why you have come here to Tulsa to the rally here for Donald Trump's re-election bid.
I typically come to Trump rallies as part of my job in the media, but specifically with this one, what I really want to highlight, being boots on the ground out here today, is the disparity or the really just flat out lies of mainstream news claiming that Biden is beating Trump in polls, because I don't know anybody that gets polled, but I do live in reality, and I've seen the last 3 Biden rallies, he hasn't had 10 people show up. He had to cancel a rally in Cleveland because nobody showed up, and his 2 rallies this week, he literally had 6 people there. So how is it that they can claim Biden is beating Trump in the polls when Trump had 1 million people register to be here today, and there's probably 20,000 plus out here, and we're still hours away from the rally? So I normally come to these things and have a good time and talk to people and get good footage, but really I want to counter the narrative that somehow Biden is beating Trump in the polls when all the evidence, all the empirical evidence says the exact opposite.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about some of the concerns that Tulsans have had, especially with Donald Trump coming here in the midst of COVID. One of those things being that according to the Tulsa Health Department, that there had been a spike in the amount of numbers that people have been confirmed as contracting COVID. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that and about just the whole pandemic in general?
Well, as far as the Tulsa numbers, I'm not as researched on that, but I can tell you I would imagine it's similar to what's happening in Austin, and that's that they claim the same thing, that they had a spike, but what really happened is they tested tens of thousands of people, and they sent all those tests away, and all the test results came back on the same day. So of course, when you have no test results for weeks, and then you get a slew of test results, you're gonna have a spike. And so that's what at least I think is responsible in Austin. I don't know if it's similar here or not. In Travis County, which is Austin, Texas, where InfoWars is located, the infected is 0.007%. 0.007%. Well, that's nowhere near enough, in my opinion, to claim I need to shut down a business or wear a mask or do any of these things. But on a larger issue, I don't believe the government has the right to tell you to shut down a business. I don't believe the government has a right to tell you to wear a mask. I don't believe the government has any of these rights. Now, if there's a pandemic happening and, your family's getting sick and your neighbors are getting sick and people are dying all around you, okay, naturally you're gonna think, I'm gonna take some precautionary measures, maybe shut down my business, maybe wear a mask, maybe not travel, maybe quarantine, but that has not been the case. And I believe that this has just been agenda. I personally, in fact, Robert Mueller has admitted there was no Russian collusion. Well, they told us there was Russian collusion for 2 years. Robert Mueller did an investigation, found none. They still have not presented any evidence. They tried to impeach President Trump on 2 issues, both of which failed. Ukrainian quid pro quo, fake news. So maybe this is just more fake news. Maybe they're just lying about the numbers. They admit the test kits are 60% effective. Well, 60% might as well be 0%. Because if you're with the 40% that's not right, then that's a 0%. So who really knows? And 50,000, they claim the numbers are now over 100,000 dead. We now know 50,000 minimum were in nursing homes when they died, specifically New York, Michigan, California, and Virginia, where the governors knowingly sent COVID-infected patients into the nursing homes, resulted in thousands of deaths. Now, I won't say they did that intentionally, but maybe they did. Maybe they are that evil. So I just feel that, though, forget politics, forget Trump or Democrats or Republicans, all Americans need to realize the government doesn't have a right to close your business. The government doesn't have a right to make you wear a mask. They don't have those rights. And the media thinks that they can drum up a bunch of fear, and then Democrat governors and Republicans as well think that they can tell you to close a business. I think it's all unconstitutional. If you want to close your business, if you want to wear a mask, if you want to take precautionary measures, that's your right. But the government doesn't have the right to force you to do that.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about what you think, especially here with the president's visit at the BOK Center. There's been a lot of concern that the numbers are going to increase just because it's an enclosed area and with all the data that's coming in. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say any speculation or debate about that should be equally applied to all the rioting and protests that we've seen for the last 3 weeks. We've had tens of thousands of people rioting and protesting in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, all across the nation. Where are people asking the question of that? Where are people wondering, hey, tens of thousands of people shoulder to shoulder in the streets, is there going to be a spread? This has been going on for more than 2 weeks. So there's still no spread. So if there's any concern about a Trump rally, there should be equal concern about all these protests and everything happening in the street, and there's not, which makes me think that it's just political.
Okay. So, some of your thoughts on the president in general. He was at one time invited by the governor of the state of Oklahoma to go to Black Wall Street. Residents there and business owners were highly against that, so it was changed. So currently right now he moved the date from the rally to today because it was originally planned on Juneteenth. Tell us what are some of your thoughts on those two issues, and where do you think they're either right or wrong in their perceptions?
I actually think the president was wrong to move his rally personally, and I don't understand why we want to hide the history in this country. Black Wall Street was one of the most successful economic booms for black Americans, and it got burned to the ground by racist people. We can't ignore this history. We have to see that, recognize it, so we never repeat it. And so for us to just ignore this history or tear down statues because we don't like the history, that's how we are doomed to repeat history. So I really don't understand it. I don't know why the president wouldn't come and tell that story of America, but say, hey, you know what? We're better than that now. Americans have come together now. We don't live in that racist history anymore. Let's come together as Americans. Let's come together. Let's build Wall Streets together. Black people, white people, everything in between. But I feel like his staff talked him out of doing that because they're afraid of the claims of being racist, or they're afraid of what the media might say about him. And I don't like that. I don't like when the president caters to the media. I do support the president, but I don't like when his team of people caters to the media. I think he should have stayed with the original date. And if they want to talk about Juneteenth or they want to talk about Black Wall Street, then talk about it. Have a real conversation. Talk about the history, why it's relevant, and tell that story. Most people don't even know about Tulsa, Oklahoma. They don't know about Black Wall Street. I just found out for the first time today about the Oklahoma Eagle. I never heard about it. This is American history. We may not like it, but we're doomed to repeat it if we don't at least know that that's what happened.
And just a couple of final questions. So, some of the concern from the people that were there on Black Wall Street, and actually from some black citizens here, is the fact that the president has not firmly come out on certain issues. For example, with Charlotte, he said that there were very fine people on both sides. When some of the issues have come up as far as with policing, he hasn't really given just a definite stance on where he stands with that. So do you think because of that, that might have caused some concern for him coming to Black Wall Street and actually having a one-on-one dialogue?
I would say no, only because it doesn't really matter what the president does. Everyone's always going to complain. There's always concern. He can never do anything right. So I really don't think it matters, what he does or doesn't do. Someone's going to always be upset. I do think it's disingenuous, though, when talking about Charlottesville. When he said there were good people, he was talking about the veterans. There were hundreds of veterans that showed up to say, hey, we're not tearing down our history. Those were the people he was meeting with. Those were the people he was referring to. And if you hear the whole context of what he said, he makes a direct reference to that. Obviously, that gets misconstrued, and they say, oh, he was supporting racists, or he was supporting this or that was there. But I just don't think that's accurate.
Okay. And so one final question. What are you hoping that the president will address while he's here in Tulsa with the launch of his campaign right now? What are some of the issues that you would like to see him just come out with and address today?
Well, it's probably a pipe dream, but I'd like him to talk about the true origins of the coronavirus in Wuhan, China, and how the Chinese government lied about it. They stopped travel from inside China from Wuhan, but allowed it to go international. He was the only one that shut it down. He was attacked for that. And then it was the Democrats that sent COVID-infected patients into nursing homes. He's getting dominated right now in the coronavirus narrative because he's not attacking on those points. I'd like to see him point that out. I'd like to hear him point out the fact that they tell him he can't have a rally, but they get to have protests in the streets all day long. And also just to stand up for American rights in general. Again, whether you like President Trump or hate his guts, you as an American have rights. You don't have a government that is a dictatorship over you, that can tell you to close your business or stay at home or wear a mask or any of this stuff. So to me, that's nonpartisan, and I wish he would take that line on it. But I don't think he's going to address either of those things. I think he'd rather just remain neutral right now because it's so polarized.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. This is CJ Neal with the Oklahoma Eagle.
Thank you, Jack.